Hello everybody, this is Jasmina, and in this video I'm going to talk about lucky people. So what is a lucky person? Well, basically how lucky you are is limited by your capacity to do a good job at whatever you do. If you're very good at what you do, you are going to appear luckier because you're going to have more opportunities, because people are going to see you can do the job and they'll hire you. Basically, it's as simple as that. Now, your Batsa chart or Chiman chart may have some features that indicate you have more than average luck in general. That is, for someone else who doesn't have this, you would see more opportunities by chance. But if you cannot produce what that person wants, whoever's looking for your service, you're not going to have any luck because you won't be able to do what they want, and so then your reputation goes down, and you know it all boils down to what you can do. Now, the best way to increase your luck is to increase your skills, increase your knowledge, increase the things that you can do well, and that could be honing skills you already have. You will appear luckier if you have more skills than the rest of your competitors, because you'll be able to do more than they can do. And you can usually do it faster, so you're just going to have more chances. And that has nothing to do with what is in your Batsa or Achievement chart necessarily. It could just be how much work you put into improving your skills. Now, some people do have a Batsa or Achievement chart that makes them luckier than average. That is, they have something that gives them powers or possibilities beyond the average person. But you have to use these gifts properly to see the luck. So this isn't just having it is not good enough. You have to use those abilities and the skills that these charts give you to actually experience the luck. Now, one of the best ones, one of the most powerful ones, at least potentially most powerful, are people with the chief as their guardian spirit. And this is in their Chiman chart. They have a lot of lucky coincidences in their life. This seems to happen for them. For example, they might miss a plane that if they had been on that plane, they would have experienced a plane crash. Now, that doesn't mean anybody would die. I mean, it could just be a plane crash where everybody survives. But I'm sure that if you're in a plane crash, it's very traumatic and makes you rather skittish for maybe getting into another plane. And this day and age, that can be pretty significant in terms of your opportunities. So they will just have something happen. For example, maybe they want to buy a house and there's a bidding war and they miss out. And so they're bummed and they think, this isn't right. They, may be very unhappy. But maybe some car crashes into that house, a week after somebody else bought it. That would be an example of lucky coincidences. They just didn't get the house, but then the house is so damaged that people can't live there, the one who did get it. Or maybe a tornado comes through, something like this. They just tend to be lucky. However, the chief is a very double-edged spirit. When I first heard about the chief, I was kind of more than a little bummed that I did not have the chief as my guardian spirit. Instead, I have the snake. But now, actually, the more I've learned about this and the more I see this in other people, I am very happy I don't have the chief. You must, absolutely must remain positive for good things to happen. If you have the chief, you have a 24/7 connection with your guardian spirit. You don't have to manifest, you're manifesting all the time. So if you worry and think about bad things, they can happen because your chief is thinking, oh, you're thinking about this, you must want it. even if you don't want it. It doesn't understand that difference. So you must have positive view of where your life is going, positive view of things for you and your loved ones for this to be good. If you start looking at life in a negative way, you start worrying one thing goes wrong and then you start worrying about all these other things, you're going to have many things go wrong. And it seems like, and I've seen this in more than other people talking about this, in more than one person, you end up having to hit rock bottom before you're able to turn things around. And that's terrible because you usually lose everything when that happens. Now, you can bounce back and even go higher when you come back, but in the meantime, it can be very bad. And this is something that I don't know how to deal with. That is, I don't know how to deal with it if I have a client like this. And I actually do have a client who has the chief. And this started out, of course, as a feng shui consult. And the house that they are building is a very fantastic house, but they're having trouble getting it finished. And there's one person who, like me, has very little or really no connection to their guardian spirit, and the other person is a chief. And the chief has turned negative. Even when they're on the attack, when they are talking about things, they're acting like they're being attacked. And that is the completely wrong viewpoint in their head. They're really thinking this wrong. And I'm really worried they're going to lose it. They're going to lose that house because it's a fantastic house, but I can't make the chief change the way they're thinking. I can't change another person's thoughts. Only they can. And I can't figure out how to make them change it. I've told them so many times, you've got to start thinking positive. The more you worry, the worse it's going to get, and they just can't stop worrying. And I don't know what to do. I am very frustrated, and I think they're frustrated too. Uh, so if you have the chief and you find yourself getting into this negative path, it's basically what Joey App would call a downward spiral. You need to get some professional help to turn this around as soon as possible. I can't make you change your thoughts. Only you can. Now, you can get the help of someone that can help you do this, but that's not me because I'm not a counselor. I don't know how to deal with this. So please, if you have the chief and you find yourself getting negative, get some professional help so that you can stop this negative path. Now, the other people that have a pretty good thing in their Chi Min chart are people with the 9 heavens as their guardian spirit. They basically have a knack of doing the right thing. The chief has lucky coincidences. The 9 heavens just seems to do the right thing, usually at the right time. Now, there is a difference between these two. The 9 heavens is really a visual spirit. So you have to envision it. You have to picture an image in your head to communicate with 9 heavens. So a vision board, people who have 9 heavens usually have very, very good results when they use a vision board. The rest of us maybe not, but the 9 heavens definitely. So you can worry in words, like you can say, oh, I hope nothing has happened to, my son as he drives across the country, that kind of thing. If you say it in words and don't picture in your head them getting in an accident, you're okay. Whereas if you had the chief, you actually have a real possibility of that happening. So 9 heavens to me is a much, much better spirit to have than the chief. You're a lot safer from negative things. So, but you do have to envision what you want to have your 9 heavens work for you. But you still have to have the skill, whatever it, to be able to do a job properly, to be able to have this work. The nice thing about nine heavens is what they envision, of course, can come to fruition, and they also have the knack of seeing the possibilities at the right time. That is, if they're aware of the world and all this stuff, they can see ahead of usually most people what is going to happen. And they can see that, oh, there's a possibility to use this. And if they can envision it, it can happen. And it usually happens at the right time when it is possible for the thing to happen. So they're not necessarily way ahead of time. Sometimes they are. But when they can see the right signals, they go, oh, now this is the time. So this is a really good guardian spirit to have. So this is not the only way. If you have healthy high levels, and this is described as 60 to 85% on the Joey Yap structure, and this is the one that looks like a spider web on the second page, bottom left-hand side of his analysis. And if that is this level of resources, usually you're also quote unquote lucky. Now, this is, you're not lucky in the sense like you are with the guardian spirits. You're lucky because when you have a high level of resources, you tend to be able to solve problems quite easily. You usually can learn very fast, pick up new skills very fast. And so through problem solvings, you become lucky. Actually, all you are is just good at your job. But since you learn faster than everybody else, you can be ahead of your competition. So that's the key here, is that you're better at your job. To other people, you look lucky, but you're just good. Now, finding a passion also is key to appearing lucky. And it's much like when you have a lot of resources. When you find a passion, you're willing to put the time and effort into becoming good at that, whatever your passion is. Now, if you're young and do not have a passion, that's a real problem. If you do lack passion, you need to explore more. You need to experience more. I'm sure there is a passion out there for you. You just have to connect with it. So this means you need to have experiences with different people than the people you've known all your life. Different topics, different viewpoints, different ways of living. Completely, the more unusual things that you can see, the more likely you are to be able to find a passion. Traveling is probably the easiest way to experience all this at the same time. And if you know how, it doesn't have to be extremely expensive to travel. You can stay in hostels, especially if you're young, you can stay in a hostel rather than a hotel. Or maybe you can camp instead of staying in a motel. There are ways to travel relatively cheaply. And by all means, the more you can experience, the better it is for you to find your passion. Something will click with you. It's just a matter of having the right incoming information, and then you'll find it. So now I'm going to switch to talking about 10 gods and how they interact with period 9. Some of the 10 gods are more in line with period 9 than others, and these 10 gods, of course, are just elements, but on the Joey Yap analysis, bottom right-hand side of the second page, it will list the 10 gods, and it will list a annual and a natal level. You want to look at the natal level. This tells you basically what you have. And you do look for these elements in your natal chart, and that's all calculated with the Joey Yap thing. In the annual, he does take the luck pillar into account, but you do want to look at your luck pillar. The heaven stem, that top row of your luck pillar, that also counts as an element. And that's a pretty strong element for at least 10 years. Now, you want to look at the ones you're going to experience during period 9. You'll either, if you started a new luck period this year, you'll just have 2 luck periods. Most people will have 3. They'll have 1 full one in the middle, and then they'll have 2 partial ones on each end. So, but, that's totally fine. That's totally normal. but you can take those skills into account. And what your 10 God will be will depend on what your day master is. So, but you can determine that through looking at Joey Epps' chart or his analysis for you. So there's two things you want to look at. You want to look at what your main profile is, and that's again on the bottom right-hand side of the second page of the Joey App analysis. And you also want to look at anything over 60%, because this is something that you have a talent in. It's better if it's not over 80%, but it's not necessarily a disaster depending on which of the 10 gods it is, if it is over 85. So, and I will be a little clearer about that, in the following discussion. But all of these are things that you have an easier time of acquiring. So I'm just trying to make your life a little bit easier. You may have a desire that doesn't match with your 10 God. You can still pursue that desire. It tends to be a little harder, but there's no reason why you cannot. So this is why passion is important. As long as you're passionate, you can maybe really ignore this 10 God stuff. You can just pursue your passion. But you'll probably recognize something in what I'm going to discuss here as where you need help. So of all the 10 gods, I think probably the best one for period 9 is HO. That's Hurting Officer. And it will be listed in English, kind of small print, as Hurting Officer in the Joey App chart. And this one is someone who likes the limelight. Now, you don't want this one to be unhealthy high. You don't want this one to be over 85%, because then you become, or you have a much higher chance of becoming narcissistic, which is not good. It will ultimately not do you well. So people with healthy high levels, and this time I'm going to say even 50% is good enough. You're above average. You can really take advantage of social media. And social media is going to be even bigger than it has been in period 9 than it was in period 8. You just have to come up with a unique or unusual approach or some sort of tactic that you will stand out from the crowd. This is how you can use your HO to really do well. You can start it as a side gig, and this can become a very profitable business over time. But you have to be unique. Now, if you're having trouble finding this unique approach, you can perhaps consider joining with a person that is becoming a partner with someone with high EG, that's Eating God. They often have really great ideas. If they don't have also a decent level of HO, they have great ideas, but they just don't want to be out in public. So you become the public persona, they become the idea person. And of course, you have to be able to get along with this person. But this is one way you can really use this. Now, when it comes to some others, we'll start with the IW. This is indirect wealth. This usually gives you the desire, maybe not the desire, but you definitely have the skills or the right mindset to run your own business. And you know what to do. Now, if you happen to have a parent who also ran a small business successfully, of course, and you have a high IW, this basically gives you experience just by watching them, and you also have the innate skills. Now, of course, to be able to run your own business, it's not just having high IW. You must also have enough resilience and energy to do this, because running your own business is harder. I say usually, it really should be always harder than being an employee, because you are basically thinking about your business 24/7. Because I mean, once you get a little bit of success, you see, okay, this works. Let's keep going, and it's very hard to give it up until you're basically ready to retire, or the business goes belly up. That does happen even with people with high IW if they get into a set of unlucky circumstances. Now, you do need to match your skills or knowledge to a need in society. You can't be offering something, even if it's unique, that nobody wants. So this is the key to having a successful business, is what you are offering is something that people out there want. And if you don't have it, you first need to gain those skills. Then you start your business. You also might consider joining with someone who has the skills but doesn't have the business savvy. That is, they find either running their own business too overwhelming and they just don't bother. Maybe they just do whatever their skills are. They help their friends and that's it. But they may have some skills that would be very good, that would be a very good thing for you to help them run a business with. So now we go on to IR, which is indirect resources. This gives you the ability to see the big picture. And so you can understand a problem in a way that you can see the big picture and how to solve it. Now, whether or not you can actually solve it has to do a lot with your DR. But these are real idea people. So, and they actually do see, it's not just they understand the problem, they understand how to solve it. So this is a really good thing to have. But if this is your only high level, then you lack the ability to make it happen. And that's why seeing the big picture is not enough. Even if you know how to solve it, that is, in theory, you can see a way that this can be solved, you can't make it happen unless you have enough DR. So you also might not be able to sell your idea. That might be where the problem lies. You may know how to solve it, but you just somehow can't get the information out. So, but if you have a decently high level of DO or 7K, you probably can do it. That's probably not your problem. It's probably something else. It's more likely to be you're not able to quite get things actually working. And there you need to work with somebody that has a decent level of DR. But you can also look at your Chiman chart and see what is in the palace with your harm door. The harm door is the door of sales. So in the Joey Yap system, if it's red, it's positive. If it's black, it's negative. The harm door itself will be black. But if everything else in that box, in that palace, that sector, whatever you want to call it, if that's all black, then you typically don't have good ability to be a salesperson. Now, joining somebody that has the right skills, for example, can somehow bring your picture, your solution that you see in your head to fruition, this is a good way. These people typically are DR because they have the skills, the technical skills, to be able to make things work. Now, if you have 7K, this gives you the ability to fight for your ideas or your vision. There is a catch here, though. Knowing what to fight for may be the challenge for these people. If they have healthy high levels, if you have a level over 85%, you're much more likely to be a dictator. And if you're not somehow in sync with the rest of society, you don't succeed because you're fighting the rest of society. I mean, you'll have your own little group, but it won't be the powerful people. It won't be the people that are able to make, they won't be successes either. So you'll have a bunch of disgruntled people who are your supporters, but that doesn't usually do you much good. So you do not want to have a level of above 85% and use this because you usually don't use it in a good way. Now, partnering with someone with the vision, like such as a person that has 9 heavens as a guardian spirit or has a healthy high level of IR, this can help you focus on basically the best topic to create a side gig. So this is doable, and you are usually pretty good if you have a high level of 7K to be able to sell your idea. This is part of selling, although it's not necessarily convincing people. It's more like you overwhelm them and make them believe what you believe. That is the healthy 7K. If you're unhealthy, then you go over the line and people don't believe you anymore either. At least not most people. Now, many people that have high levels of 7K, especially if it's over 85%, are stubborn and they have a hard time accepting people with different viewpoints. So if you're not somehow in sync with the need of society at the time, you won't have success. And so sometimes you need someone to help you adjust it. Now, you still could sell ideas, and you might not even agree with them, but you have the energy and the ability to sell the idea. And you might have to adapt a vision that you don't necessarily believe in, but you could do it. Now, if you're not in line with society, maybe it's best you don't use 7K because you're going to not be very comfortable trying to sell some other idea because naturally you think your idea is right, even if it is truly wrong. And I mean, you can have a 7K person who is racist or sexist or homophobic, and they can be very harmful to society. And there are people out there, I'm sure, that are like this. But that's because they really firmly believe in what they believe in, even if, and the thing is they cannot be convinced usually otherwise. So this one isn't the best one for period 9 because period 9 is a lot of changes and 7K doesn't change very well. So this one is one of the ones that'll be more difficult. And maybe I hope that you have a different, one of the different 10 gods that is also high, and you use that one instead. But if you happen to be in line with society, hey, go with this one. It's good. Period 9 again, so many changes. It's going to be difficult for people that are high in 7K. They're going to be unhappy much of the time, but you can rely on something else to bring your money in, to have a side gig. You're just going to have to live with it because you don't have enough control over it. And the more that you complain about it, the less likely you are to be successful. You just have to ignore it. Now, RW, this is Rob Wealth. It sounds terrible, but it's not as bad as the name sounds. This gives you the skill to recognize somebody with a good idea that can work. That is, it's not just a good idea, but it has the possibility of working. That is, it's not so pie in the sky that, we can't do it, at least at this technological stage. But so the idea is you're going to connect with somebody, but you have to have a skill that other person needs. Then you can successfully connect with them, partner with them, and together you can have a better business than either one of you separately. So that's the key here, is that you'll be really good at helping others make a business work well. Now, there are a couple ways to do this. Technical skills. This is one of the big ones. And if you have a decent level of DR, you probably can acquire those skills pretty easily. And DR is direct resources. Now, this basically, social media is, of course, the way you get known today. So if you have skills that can help with social media, this really helps you. And this includes web pages, because sometimes you do need a web page for something. So this is always in demand. So this is something you can do if you have high levels of RW. Also, selling, the art of selling is also a skill that's highly useful. So again, you can look at the what you have at the harm door in your palace, and this can indicate whether or not you're actually good at sales, but also it can tell you how to go about selling. So if your harm door, which is a door, if it's with, let's say, the moon spirit, then you are going to instruct people. That's how you go about selling. You teach them something, and therefore you can sell. If it's with the, let's say, the heart star, then you can talk about how this helps the person in a more fundamental or very personal way that they can help themselves. So you look at it that way. Now, you could even have it with what would be considered a negative thing, like the phoenix. The phoenix would be in black in the Joey Yap's system. So it's not considered to be a very positive spirit. But people with the phoenix, they're very good at talking and convincing people through speech. If it's the nine heavens, you have to create a picture. And usually it's better to create a physical picture through social media, not just describe it in words. It's better to actually show something. That would be a way to do this. So it depends on what's with your harm door. Also, the DO and the 7K also have to do with selling. So 7K can sell, but they often have a very limited viewpoint and can't always sell the best. The DO is better at that. And they're just better at organization too. So DO is better than 7K in this case. But both of those are influence. That is, being able to sell, influence other people. So the EG, now this gives you the ability to have a lot of great ideas or create a lot of unusual and interesting things. But you may not necessarily have the desire to advertise them, to, sell them. You may also just basically lack the ability to run a business properly. So if you have high EG and nothing else is high, you definitely need to partner with people because you don't have what it takes to run a business. So it kind of helps to know what you're weak in, to know who you need to look for. So if you don't like the spotlight, team up with someone that has high levels of HO, the one I first talked about. They actually are really suited to period 9. They like being in the spotlight, so they're really good for period 9, because period 9 is a lot to do with change, has a lot to do with being online, basically being widely known. So that is your best way to improve your life. And they will be the ones who let people know about what you're doing. You are behind the scenes, you're probably happy behind the scenes, but they're the ones who do the selling of your ideas, the selling of your objects, whatever. Now, if you dislike the task associated with running a business, and you just don't quite know how to do it, teaming up with someone with healthy high levels of IW works quite well. They're the ones who have the natural ability to be able to run a business. And it's usually not a big business. They're better at small businesses. If your organization is the thing, let's say you actually create products, create an actual object that you'll have to mail to people. Well, if you are so disorganized, you send the wrong things to the wrong people and all this kind of stuff, well, then you want to get someone with high levels of direct officer, DO, because they are very organized. They will make sure the right things get to the right people in a timely manner, and your business can expand. So again, it helps to know where you're weak, to know who you should connect with. It might be possible that you have to connect with everybody, but you have to know which one is the weakest point. Start with that, and then build your way up. Now for friend is basically your greatest strength is being a good friend. So counseling, maybe public relations can be the best thing. Now, public relations is part of usually some very large businesses. That may be your best path for period 9. You don't have a lot of strengths that necessarily are specifically good for period 9, but being a counselor is not a bad thing. A lot of people need counseling. And actually, this may even be more in period 9 than other periods because of all the changes that will go on. And there are a lot of people who don't like change. So running your own business may not be for you. It depends on also what your level of IW is. But joining in a small group of other counselors where you have someone who maybe is high in IW, coordinate the business for you, but you guys are work together in terms of maybe coming up with new ideas or coming up with ways to share a space or something like this. This can work out well. And being in general connection with people that are like-minded like you can make you better at your job also. So oftentimes these people don't like to work alone because it makes sense. They like people. So this is why it's always better to be part of a group. It doesn't have to be a large group, but a group situation is much better. Now, DR is direct resources. Your greatest strength is your analytical skills. And even though analytical skills won't necessarily be the forefront of anything, with all the technology today, it is critical. These people will almost always be in high demand because technical skills are not things that everybody can do. There are a lot of people who after they leave high school never use algebra again. I use algebra all the time because it can actually answer a lot of questions of technical things. But yeah, I use it all the time. Now, there are many businesses, including universities, that can use your skills. Sometimes, and this can be, sometimes you are actually employed by the university. Other times you could be having your own business and be working with many different universities around the world today where you could do this. But also businesses also have these kind of issues. So freelancing in general will give you more money in the long run, but first you have to acquire a good reputation before going solo. So you have to be known as someone who does a good job when you're analyzing something. Then, and at a certain point you will find that, at a certain point you'll be doing a few jobs outside and it will grow until it's your basic job. And you'll earn more than you would if you were working for a certain company or a certain university. Now, teaming up with a person who has a great idea but needs significant support in their getting it to work, and it has something to do with the analytical skills, that is a really good place for you to be too. You don't necessarily have to go about acquiring the right reputation in the first place. If their idea requires a lot of technical support. So that is another way you can go, another path. DR, even though they're not, let's say, in sync with period 9, the fact that if they have a broad enough analytical skills, they'll always be in demand. It doesn't matter the period. But not everybody has this. So people with high levels of DR may need others to run the people side of the business because they look at things, especially if they're very high, they look at things as just, if they can't find a way to analyze it, they don't know how to deal with it. That is the downfall of a DR, especially a very high level DR. I would say connect with someone with a decent level of DO. That may be the best person to connect with because these people are not only organized, they're usually very good at dealing with people. So that may be the best combination. So DO, your greatest strength is your organizational skills, but you're also good with people. So that's good. Many small business owners have good ideas, but they don't necessarily have the organizational skills to run their company efficiently. So they have a hard time making a profit because they spend too much time to make their product. So teaming up with a person that has a great idea but needs support in streamlining their process is a really good use of your skill. And you can do this for not necessarily for just one business. You can do this for lots of different businesses over time. So you may jump around from organization to organization that you're helping, but you have really good skills that are quite useful in period 9. So the DW. Now, your personality is really not suited to running your own business. You don't really have an interest in doing this. You will find it to be too onerous, um, too many responsibilities that you aren't interested in doing. But you actually are usually a very good worker. You can do a job very well when you have distinct boundaries where you know what you need to do. You will learn how to do it, usually quite quickly, and you will be quite consistent. Now, you might just think about this and know, yeah, you probably were better off in period 8, and that is true. And in fact, from period 5 all the way through the end of period 8, basically it was much better for somebody that has a high DW because you're made for society at that time. There's a lot of jobs that need to be done well, but that don't have any opportunity to go really high, like become a leader within that business. But if you can do your job well, you keep on getting raises and bonuses and promotions. So, but that is not going to work so well in period 9 because things change too fast. So working with others who are in a startup business can be a fruitful use of your free time. It would be best if you could get a piece of their profit. That is a good way to do it rather than just being paid. But this can also help expand your skill set. So sometime working with somebody that you're just getting paid a certain amount is also useful. And actually, the more small businesses that do things a bit differently actually help expand your skill set, which is always good, especially for a DW, because they often don't on their own want to learn new things. They need a push to learn new things. And this is one way that that can happen. Picking up as many skills as you can will help you become more prosperous in period 9, because period 9 is not really made for DW. It's almost the antithesis of DW. It's the opposite. And period 1 isn't going to be much different than period 9. It will be a little softer, a little less quickly changing, but it will still change a lot. Now, if DW is your only high-level skill, I think that you're going to find period 9 considerably more challenging than period 8 because you're not really in sync with it. If you have some other high-level skill, maybe you go with that instead of the DW, because the DW, even if this is your highest, but you have another one that's above 60%, maybe you concentrate on that one, because that's much more, almost guaranteed it'll be more suitable, because DW is highly unsuitable for period 9. So that's basically it. And don't worry if you have DW. You'll still be okay. It won't maybe be as easy as it will for other people, but you can still make it work. So don't freak out. Anyway, I hope this was useful. And I hope you see that it's the skills that you have that define what your luck will be like. Thanks again for watching.